What if I told you that right now, at this very moment, you're either growing or you're falling behind? Not in 5 years, not next month, right now. Most people don't realize this. They think success is about talent, luck, or being born into the right circumstances. But the truth, the real advantage in life, belongs to those who never stop learning. Look around. The world is changing faster than ever. New skills become outdated overnight. Entire industries disappear. And yet, most people? They stop learning the moment they leave school. They spend hours scrolling through social media, watching mindless entertainment, consuming distractions instead of knowledge. And then they wonder why they feel stuck. But the top 1%, the men who rise above, the ones who get ahead in life, they operate differently. They know that every day is an opportunity to sharpen their minds, to gain a new skill, to see the world from a new perspective. They read, they listen, they challenge themselves, because they understand something most people don't. If you're not learning, you're dying. And the best part? You don't need to be a genius. You don't need to have the perfect background. You just need the discipline to educate yourself every single day. Today, we're breaking down how to do exactly that and why it will put you ahead of 99% of people. And I want to hear from you. What's the one thing you've learned recently that changed the way you think? Drop it in the comments. Because in a world where most people are asleep, the ones who share knowledge are the ones who rise. Let's get into it. 1. The hidden cost of stagnation. Stagnation is a silent killer. It doesn't hit you all at once. It creeps in, slowly, quietly, until wake up and realize you've been left behind. The worst part? You don't even notice it happening. Most people believe staying the same is safe, that if they can just maintain their current job, their current mindset, their current routine, they'll be fine. But the world doesn't work that way. Everything is evolving. Technology is advancing, industries are shifting, and new ideas are reshaping the world. The men who adapt thrive. The ones who resist, they fade into irrelevance. You think you're standing still, but in reality, you're falling behind. Success isn't about maintaining what you have. It's about expanding your mind, upgrading your skills, and constantly pushing forward. Consider this. A man who reads 1 book a month gains 12 new perspectives in a year. Another man who hasn't picked up a book since college, he's stuck with the same outdated mindset. One grows, the other stagnates. Which one do you think will be in control of his future? If you're not upgrading your knowledge, if you're not developing new skills, you're one disruption away from being replaced. Think about Blockbuster. At its peak, it was a giant. Millions of customers, thousands of stores, complete dominance in the movie rental industry. Then came Netflix. Blockbuster had the chance to adapt. They had the opportunity to evolve, but they didn't. They ignored the shift in technology, refused to learn, and clung to their old ways. The result? They went extinct. It's not just companies that suffer this fate. The same thing happens to people. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you learned something that made you more valuable? When was the last time you pushed yourself beyond your comfort zone? Are you moving forward or just surviving? Most men wake up one day and realize they're stuck in the same job, making the same money, dealing with the same frustrations. Why? Because they believed the lie that growth is optional. It's not. Stagnation costs more than you think. It doesn't just cost you financially. It costs you opportunities, confidence, and self-respect. Think about a man who stops challenging himself. Over time, his ambition fades, his energy drops, his sharpness dulls. Soon, he's just going through the motions, working, eating, sleeping, repeating. He's alive, but he's not really living. Meanwhile, another man, maybe the same age, same background, is sharpening his mind every day. He's learning new skills, applying new ideas, staying ahead of the curve. When opportunities arise, guess who's ready? Success doesn't go to the strongest, it goes to the most adaptable. The moment you stop learning is the moment you start declining. It happens faster than you think. A few weeks of complacency turn into months, months turn into years. Then suddenly, you look around and the world has moved on without you. You see younger men getting promoted, you see others making moves, building businesses, mastering new skills, and you wonder, what happened? How did I get stuck? The answer is simple. You stopped growing. You told yourself you were fine where you were. You assumed that what worked yesterday would work tomorrow. But the world doesn't wait for anyone. The men who rise to the top are the ones who treat learning as a way of life, the ones who see every day as a chance to get sharper, stronger, and more prepared for what's ahead. The worst part is that stagnation feels comfortable at first. It's easy, no pressure, no discomfort, no hard choices. But comfort is a trap. It lulls you into a false sense of security. Then one day, reality hits. You lose your job because you didn't evolve. You get passed over for opportunities because someone else was hungrier, faster, and better prepared. You realize too late that the skills you relied on are no longer valuable. That's when regret sets in. You start wishing you had done things differently. You start looking back at all the time you wasted, all the chances you ignored, all the knowledge you never bothered to acquire. The good news? You don't have to end up like that. You can break free from stagnation, starting now. You don't need to make massive changes overnight. You just need to start moving. Instead of scrolling social media, read something that expands your thinking. Instead of watching mindless entertainment, listen to a podcast that challenges you. Instead of wasting time complaining, learn a skill that makes you more valuable. The goal is simple. Never let a day pass without growing in some way. Small, consistent improvements compound over time. They separate the successful from the stagnant. Right now, you have a choice. You can continue doing what you've always done, or you can decide at this moment to break free from stagnation. You can choose growth over comfort, progress over excuses, learning over distraction. Because the truth is, the future belongs to those who keep learning. Make sure you're one of them, too. Why most men over 40 feel lost. Something happens to most men after 40. They wake up one day and feel off, not broken, not defeated, just lost. Like they're stuck in a fog, moving but going nowhere. They've built a life, career, family, responsibilities, but deep inside, something feels missing. It's not about money, not about status, it's about purpose. When they were younger, they had fire. They chased dreams, they wanted more. Now, they feel like they're just going through the motions. Every day looks the same. The excitement is gone. The hunger, fading. They tell themselves it's normal, that's just life. That this is what happens when you get older. But that's a lie. What really happened? They stopped growing. Not physically, mentally. They stopped challenging themselves. They stopped learning. They stopped becoming better. Society teaches men to grind in their 20s and 30s. Work hard, build a career, provide for a family, and many do exactly that. But somewhere along the way, they fall into a dangerous trap. They tell themselves, I've made it. So they stop pushing. They settle into routines. They let their curiosity die. And without realizing it, they trade growth for comfort. At first, it feels good, stability, predictability, no more chaos. But over time, something starts to eat at them. A sense that they are capable of more, but don't know what that more is. That's why so many men over 40 feel disconnected. It's not because they're aging, it's because they've stopped evolving. Think about the men who stay ahead of the curve. They aren't necessarily the richest or the strongest, but they have something most don't. A hunger to keep learning. Look at someone like Warren Buffett. He still reads for hours every day. He doesn't have to. He could retire, relax, and enjoy his billions. But he knows the moment he stops learning, he stops growing. Compare that to the average man in his 40s or 50s. He watches the same shows, scrolls the same social media, talks about the same things he talked about a decade ago. He's stagnant, and stagnation breeds frustration. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Men over 40 often feel lost because they've spent decades reacting to life instead of choosing how to live it. They let their job, their family, their obligations dictate everything. And in doing so, they lost control of their own minds. They stopped questioning, stopped reflecting, stopped asking, what do I actually want? Stoicism teaches us that true fulfillment doesn't come from external success. It comes from mastering yourself. And mastering yourself starts with learning. New knowledge, new perspectives, new challenges. That's what keeps a man alive inside. You don't need a complete life overhaul. You don't need to quit your job, move to a new city, or reinvent yourself overnight. You just need to start learning again. Read a book that challenges your thinking. Take up a new skill that forces your brain to work. Have deep conversations instead of surface-level small talk. Question your routines and shake them up. The simple act of seeking new knowledge changes everything. It wakes up parts of your brain that have been asleep for years. It reignites the fire you thought was gone. And the best part? It's never too late. Some of the greatest men in history found their true calling later in life. Colonel Sanders started KFC in his 60s. Ray Kroc turned McDonald's into a global empire at 52. Morgan Freeman didn't land a major movie role until nearly 50. The idea that your best years are behind you? It's a lie. Your 40s and 50s can be your most powerful years. If you keep growing, if you stay curious, if you keep pushing yourself forward. The reason so many men feel lost isn't because they're too old. It's because they stopped becoming better. When you stop growing, life starts shrinking. You become trapped in your own limitations. You let your past define you instead of creating a new future. But you don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to wake up every day feeling like you're just running out the clock. There is a way out, and it starts with a decision. The decision to take control. The decision to invest in yourself again. The decision to be more than just another man drifting through life. Imagine waking up every morning with a sense of purpose, knowing that you are actively getting better, sharper, stronger, knowing that every day is a step forward instead of just another 24 hours of sameness. That's the difference between a man who stays lost and a man who finds his way again. So the real question is, are you going to accept feeling lost as a permanent state? Or are you going to do something about it? The men who refuse to stop learning never feel lost for long. They always find their way. 3. Your brain is a muscle. Your body gets weaker when you stop training. Your muscles shrink, your endurance fades, your strength disappears. Everyone knows this, but what most people don't realize is that the same thing happens to your mind. Your brain is a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. Most people stop training their minds the moment they leave school. They assume that learning is something you do when you're young, before real life begins. But this is why so many men feel stuck as they get older. They let their minds go soft. They stop challenging themselves. They stop pushing the limits of their intelligence, their creativity, and their ability to adapt. And then one day they wonder why they feel slow, why they struggle to keep up, why they feel like the world is moving forward without them. It's because their brains atrophied, just like an untrained body. But here's the truth. Your brain is capable of growth at any age. It's designed to adapt, evolve, and rewire itself. Scientists call this neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to form new connections, strengthen neural pathways, and improve cognitive function. But just like physical strength, mental strength is not automatic. You have to train it. Think of your mind like a high-performance car. It has the potential for incredible speed, agility, and endurance. But if you never take it out of first gear, if you never push it, if you let it sit in the garage collecting dust, it becomes useless. The men who stay sharp, the ones who continue to excel long after others have plateaued, are the ones who treat their brain like an athlete treats their body. They train it every day. They expose it to new challenges. They force it to grow. Look at Elon Musk. He built companies in multiple industries: tech, aerospace, energy, AI. He didn't do it by sitting in a classroom and waiting for permission. He trained his brain relentlessly. He read books on rocket science until he understood it. He surrounded himself with the sharpest minds. He stretched his cognitive limits every single day. Contrast that with the average man in his 40s or 50s. He does the same things the same way every day, watches the same TV shows, has the same conversations, thinks the same thoughts. His brain isn't getting stronger, it's getting weaker. That's why men who continue to train their minds, to read, to study, to challenge their thinking, stay ahead of the game. They don't just survive change, they dominate it. So how do you train your brain? The same way you train your body. Progressive overload. If you go to the gym and lift the same weight every day, you won't get stronger. The only way to grow is to increase the challenge, to push yourself past your comfort zone. Your brain works the same way. Reading is a start. But don't just read what's easy. Challenge yourself. Read books that force you to think differently, that stretches your understanding, that makes you uncomfortable. Write. Most people think writing is just about communication. It's not. Writing forces you to structure your thoughts, to clarify your ideas, to sharpen your reasoning. The best thinkers in history, from Marcus Aurelius to modern CEOs, kept journals. Not for others, for themselves. Learn new skills. It doesn't matter if it's a language, coding, playing an instrument, or something completely unrelated to your work. The act of learning something new forces your brain to grow. It strengthens the pathways that allow you to think faster, deeper, and more creatively. Break your routines. Routine is a double-edged sword. It can provide discipline, but it can also trap you in mental autopilot. If your days look the same, your brain is running on preset patterns. Shake things up, take a different route to work, try a new hobby, travel to a new place. Expose your mind to new experiences, and it will adapt accordingly. Train focus. The modern world is designed to steal your attention. Every notification, every headline, every endless scroll through social media weakens your ability to concentrate. And focus is a skill. If you don't train it, you lose it. Cut the noise. Limit distractions. Practice deep work. Periods of time where you're fully engaged in a single task. This alone will put you ahead of 99% of men who can't go 5 minutes without checking their phone. And most importantly, never stop questioning. The greatest minds in history didn't just accept the world as it was. They questioned everything. They asked, why? What if? How could this be better? Stoicism teaches that we must train the mind just as we train the body. Seneca wrote, difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. The things that challenge you mentally, the tough books, the deep conversations, the uncomfortable truths, are the very things that make you sharper, stronger, more resilient. But most men avoid these challenges. They choose comfort over growth. They distract themselves instead of sharpening themselves. And then they wonder why they feel mentally slow, why they struggle to adapt, why they don't feel as sharp as they used to. It's not age, it's not genetics, it's neglect. Right now, you have a choice. You can let your mind weaken slowly, quietly, without realizing it, or you can start training it. Today, right now. You can push it to be better, sharper, faster. You can rewire it for success. Because here's the truth. In a world that's changing faster than ever, the men who train their minds will rise. The ones who don't, they will be left behind. Train your mind or lose it. The choice is yours. 4. Smart men use knowledge to gain freedom. Freedom is not given, it's earned. Most men spend their entire lives chasing it. More money, more time, more choices. But they go about it the wrong way. They think working harder is the answer. They believe that grinding for decades will somehow buy them the freedom they crave. But that's a lie. Hard work alone doesn't create freedom. Knowledge does. Look at the world around you. The men who control their time, their income, and their future are not the ones who simply work the hardest. They are the ones who understand how the game is played, and they play it better than everyone else. Most men don't see this. They wake up, go to work, follow orders, and live paycheck to paycheck. They accept the system as it is. They never question it. They never ask, is there a better way? And that's why they stay trapped. Because the truth is, the system isn't built for you to be free. It's designed to keep you dependent. From the moment you're born, you're conditioned to follow a path. Go to school, get a job, work for decades, retire when you're too old to enjoy it. That's the script. That's the cycle. But some men break free. They understand that knowledge is leverage. They see that intelligence, not effort, is what separates the trapped from the free. Think about it. The richest men in the world don't work harder than you. They don't have more hours in a day. What they have is superior knowledge about business, about finance, about how to create value instead of just selling their time. Elon Musk didn't build Tesla by working 100-hour weeks at a factory. He did it by understanding how to make his knowledge work for him. Warren Buffett didn't get rich by taking on 3 jobs. He did it by learning how to make money work for him instead of working for money. This is where most men fail. They chase higher salaries instead of higher knowledge. They look for security instead of opportunity. And in doing so, they lock themselves in a system where they will never be free. Because real freedom isn't about having more money, it's about having control. Control over how you spend your time, control over your income, control over your life. And that control only comes when you understand the rules of the game better than anyone else. If you don't believe this, look around. The men who live life on their terms, the ones who wake up when they want, travel when they want, do what they want, aren't just lucky. They're educated. They've mastered the skills that allow them to create value on demand. They've built businesses, investments, or careers that don't rely on trading hours for dollars. They know how to generate income from multiple sources. They've developed expertise that makes them indispensable. And they didn't get there by accident. They got there by learning. But here's where most men go wrong. They think education stops when school ends. They assume that a degree is all they need. They don't realize that real knowledge, the kind that leads to freedom, is something you must seek out yourself. It's not found in textbooks. It's not taught in schools. It's found in experience, in books written by those who have done it, in mentors who have walked the path before you. And it's not just financial knowledge. It's mental knowledge, learning how to think critically, how to make decisions under pressure, how to stay calm when others panic. This is why the top 1% read constantly, not because they have to, but because they understand that the more you know, the more powerful you become. Knowledge is a weapon, and most men go into battle unarmed. So what's the solution? Simple. Start learning the things that actually matter. Read books on money, psychology, strategy. Learn skills that give you leverage, investing, negotiation, communication. Study the men who have achieved the freedom you want. Then apply it. Because knowledge without action is just wasted potential. If you learn how to invest but never invest, what's the point? If you understand how to start a business but never take the first step, how will anything change? The difference between those who stay trapped and those who break free is simple. One group uses what they learn. The other just collects information. Freedom is earned through application, not just awareness. You don't need permission to start. You don't need to wait for the right moment. You don't need to be born into wealth or privilege. You just need to decide. Decide that you will no longer be dependent on a system designed to keep you stuck. Decide that you will outlearn, outthink, and outmaneuver the 99% who accept mediocrity. Decide that you will not be owned, not by a paycheck, not by debt, not by circumstances. Because the truth is, the men who refuse to learn are the men who remain slaves. Slaves to their jobs, slaves to their bills, slaves to a system that was never designed for them to escape. But those who seek knowledge, those who apply it, they write their own rules, they build their own futures, they win. So ask yourself, are you learning the things that will set you free? Or are you just going through the motions, hoping things will somehow change? Because in the end, the men who control the world are the men who understand it best. And those who don't, they stay stuck, watching from the sidelines, wondering why life never got any easier. 5. The harsh truth. No one cares about your excuses. Life doesn't care about your excuses. Neither does success. Yet most men spend their lives explaining why they're stuck, why they haven't achieved what they wanted, why things haven't worked out. They have reasons, stories, justifications. But here's the reality. No one is listening. The world rewards results, not explanations. You can tell yourself you didn't have the right opportunities, that life was unfair, that you tried, but things didn't work out. But none of that changes one brutal fact. You are exactly where your choices have led you. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to fix it for you. And the longer you sit in excuses, the longer you stay trapped. Most men waste years waiting for something external to change. They blame their job, their boss, the economy, their upbringing. They convince themselves that if only circumstances were different, they would succeed. But circumstances are never perfect, and waiting for them to be is a guaranteed way to fail before you even start. Because here's what most don't realize. The most successful men also had obstacles. They faced rejection, failure, and hardship. The difference? They didn't use those things as an excuse. They found a way forward, even when everything was against them. Excuses are seductive. They make failure feel justified. They protect your ego. They let you off the hook. But they also chain you to the same life, year after year, while others move forward. Think about it. How many times have you caught yourself saying, "I'll do it when the time is right"? Or, "I just don't have enough experience yet"? Or, "It's too late for me to start"? These thoughts feel real. They feel rational. but they are nothing more than mental roadblocks you built for yourself. The truth is, you will never feel fully ready. You will never have the perfect conditions. You will never have a life free of challenges. If you wait for the right moment, you'll be waiting forever. Success is not about having a perfect path. It's about moving forward despite imperfection. It's about acting when others hesitate, about committing when others make excuses, about figuring things out as you go instead of waiting for everything to be in place. Every man has two choices: to be the person who finds solutions or the person who finds excuses. One moves forward, the other stays stuck. Most people will always choose the second option. It's easier, it's safer. It feels comfortable to sit back and say, I could have done that if only things had been different. But saying it doesn't change anything. It just gives them permission to stay where they are. No one is coming to hand you success. No one owes you a better life. If you want it, you take it. And taking it means taking responsibility. The moment you stop blaming circumstances and start owning your results, everything changes. The moment you stop saying, I can't because, and start asking, how can I? You put yourself in control. That's the only way to win. You can look at your challenges and use them as fuel, or you can use them as an excuse. You can see failure as proof that you should quit, or as proof that you need to adjust and go harder. Your mindset determines everything. Most men quit when things get hard. They see difficulty as a sign to stop. But strong men, they see it as a test, a challenge, a chance to prove they are more than their circumstances. Pain is part of the process. Struggle is unavoidable. The only question is whether you let it stop you or shape you. You are not your past. You are not your failures. You are not the things that didn't go your way. The only thing that defines you is what you do next. Right now, you have a choice. You can keep telling yourself why things are the way they are. You can list all the reasons why you haven't moved forward. You can sit in the comfort of your excuses, or you can decide today, right now, that you're done making them. You don't need more time. You don't need permission. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to start. Because when you do, you'll realize something powerful. Excuses were the only thing holding you back all along. 6. Knowledge is the only investment that never fails. Money can disappear overnight, markets crash, businesses fail, economies collapse. But there's one investment that never loses value: knowledge. Most men chase external wealth. They focus on assets, savings, and financial security. They think the key to success is how much money they can stack. But the truth is, the most powerful asset isn't in your bank account, it's in your mind. Because no matter what happens, a man with knowledge can rebuild everything from nothing. Look around. Some of the wealthiest, most successful men in history have lost it all at some point. But they came back stronger. Why? Because they had something that couldn't be taken away. They understood how the game worked. They had the skills, the insights, the mindset to create value again and again. Compare that to the average man. He saves, he plays it safe, he hopes his job will last, that his retirement will be enough, that nothing will go wrong. But when disaster strikes, he's unprepared. He panics. He has no idea how to adapt because he never invested in the one thing that truly matters. The difference between a man who thrives and a man who struggles isn't luck. It isn't background. It's who has the knowledge to navigate any situation. Yet most men don't see this. They spend years working hard, but never working smart. They memorize useless facts, but never develop real-world skills. They follow orders, but never ask why things work the way they do. And this is why they stay stuck. Because in a world that's constantly changing, knowledge is the only thing that guarantees survival. Think about it. If you lost your job today, how long would it take you to replace that income? If the industry you work in became obsolete, do you have the skills to pivot? If everything you relied on disappeared, could you rebuild? Most men can't. They rely on a system they don't control. They depend on someone else for their paycheck. They trust that things will always stay the same, but they won't. The world is evolving faster than ever. AI is replacing jobs. Entire industries are shifting. The only men who will thrive in the coming decades are the ones who know how to adapt. And adaptation isn't about working harder. It's about learning faster. The most valuable men are not the ones who do the most work. They are the ones who understand the most. They can walk into any room, any situation, any market, and figure out how to win. They don't panic when things change. They control the change. And the only way to do that is to keep learning every single day. This isn't about reading random books or watching motivational videos. It's about strategic learning. Learning the skills that give you leverage. Learning the mindsets that make you unstoppable. Learning how systems work so you can bend them to your advantage. It's about understanding money, not just making it, but how to multiply it. It's about studying human nature, because the better you understand people, the more power you have. It's about mastering your emotions, so no setback, no failure, no crisis can ever break you. This is what separates the top 1% from everyone else. They don't just rely on what they were taught in school. They seek out the knowledge that actually matters. They read books that expand their thinking. They surround themselves with people who challenge them. They ask better questions. And most importantly, they apply what they learn. Because knowledge without action is worthless. Most men collect information, but never use it. They watch endless tutorials, take courses, consume content, but nothing in their life changes because they confuse learning with doing. The only knowledge that matters is the knowledge that gets used. So if you're not actively applying what you're learning, you're just wasting time. If you're reading about investing but never invest, what's the point? If you're studying business but never start one, what have you gained? Every book, every lesson, every insight should translate into action. Otherwise, it's just mental clutter. But here's the real secret. Once you commit to constant learning, everything changes. You become sharper. You start seeing opportunities where others see obstacles. You start predicting moves before they happen. You gain confidence, not because of some fake self-help trick, but because you actually know what you're doing. And that confidence? It's priceless. Because when a man truly understands his environment, when he knows he can adapt to anything, he becomes unstoppable. This is why knowledge is the only investment that never fails. Because when you invest in your mind, you are investing in your ability to win, no matter what happens. So the question is simple. Are you growing, or are you relying on what you learned years ago, hoping it will be enough? Because the men who keep learning will own the future, and the ones who don't, they'll be left behind, wondering what happened. Outwork, outlearn, outlast, the formula for staying ahead. There is no secret, no overnight success, no magic formula. Winning is simple, but not easy. You outwork, outlearn, and outlast everyone else. That's it. That's the game. And if you master these three, no one can stop you. Most men want success. They talk about it. They dream about it. They watch others achieve it and wonder why it hasn't happened for them. They think they need more luck, more connections, a better break. But here's the truth. Success isn't about what you start with. It's about what you're willing to do. And most men, they're not willing to do enough. They hesitate. They overthink. They wait for the perfect conditions. They tell themselves they'll start tomorrow. But tomorrow turns into next week turns into next year. And before they know it, a decade has passed, and they're in the same place, watching others pull ahead. But the men who dominate in any field, they don't wait. They don't hesitate. They show up every single day, whether they feel like it or not. They outwork everyone around them. Not because they are the most talented, not because they have the best resources, but because they simply do more than anyone else is willing to do. They wake up earlier, they put in extra hours, they train harder, they push further. And over time, that discipline compounds. The gap between them and the average man grows wider and wider until they are untouchable. But working hard isn't enough, because hard work without knowledge is wasted effort. That's why the best don't just grind mindlessly. They outlearn everyone. The average man stops learning the moment he leaves school. He thinks he knows enough. He assumes experience alone will carry him forward. So he stops reading, stops questioning, stops developing. Meanwhile, the men at the top never stop learning. They consume books like fuel. They seek out mentors. They surround themselves with sharper minds. They challenge their own beliefs. They don't just work hard, they work smart, because they know that knowledge is leverage. Think about it. The difference between the man grinding 60 hours a week for an average paycheck and the man making millions with half the effort, It's knowledge. The man who understands money doesn't just earn it, he multiplies it. The man who understands influence doesn't just talk, he persuades. The man who understands systems doesn't just work within them, he bends them to his advantage. And all of this comes from learning faster than the competition. Most men will spend years grinding at a job, hoping for a raise, thinking hard work alone will make them successful, never realizing that a single book, a single course, a single skill could cut their effort in half while doubling their results. It's not about working hard or working smart. It's about working hard and smart. But even that is not enough, because no matter how much you outwork or outlearn, life will test you. You will fail. You will lose money. You will face rejection. You will hit walls that seem impossible to break through. That's why the third part of the formula is the most important. You must outlast. Most men quit when things get hard. They start strong. They have ambition. They make progress. But the moment things don't go their way, they fold. They make excuses. They convince themselves it wasn't meant to be. But the men who win, they endure. They take every setback as a lesson, every failure as fuel, every rejection as proof that they need to get better. They adjust, they refine, and they keep going, long after everyone else has given up. And because of that, they are the last men standing. And in the real world, the last man standing always wins. This is why most people never reach their full potential. They are willing to work until it gets hard. They are willing to learn until it gets uncomfortable. They are willing to try until they fail. But those who outwork, outlearn, and outlast, they don't just succeed. They dominate. They build empires while others settle for scraps. They carve out freedom while others stay stuck in mediocrity. They bend the world to their will because they refuse to accept anything less. So ask yourself, right now, are you willing to do what most won't? Are you willing to outwork even when you're exhausted? Are you willing to outlearn even when you think you already know enough? Are you willing to outlast even when everything is against you? Because the men who do, they take what they want from life. And the ones who don't, they sit back and watch. 8. Legacy is built on knowledge. What will you leave behind? At the end of your life, what will remain? Not your job, not your money, not your possessions. Your legacy is not measured by what you owned, it's measured by what you built, what you taught, and who you impacted. Most men go through life without thinking about this. They chase short-term goals. They focus on the next paycheck, the next promotion, the next distraction. But when it's all said and done, none of that matters. Because once you're gone, the only thing that lasts is what you passed on. And the men who understand this, they live differently. They don't just accumulate wealth. They accumulate wisdom. They don't just build businesses. They build people. They don't just consume information. They create knowledge that outlives them. This is the difference between those who leave a mark on the world and those who fade into obscurity. History remembers men who passed down knowledge. It forgets men who only consumed it. Think about the greatest minds, the ones who shaped history. Marcus Aurelius, Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla. They didn't just live their lives, they documented their lessons. They left behind ideas, innovations, and principles that changed the world. And now, centuries later, their knowledge still influences millions. Now ask yourself, if you disappeared tomorrow, what knowledge would you leave behind? Would your children have something to learn from? Would the next generation benefit from your experiences? Would anyone be able to look at your work and say, this man made an impact? Or would everything you've learned, everything you've built, disappear with you? Because here's the hard truth. If you don't pass it down, it dies with you. Most men go through life consuming content, absorbing ideas, following trends, but never creating, never sharing, never teaching. And that's why their existence leaves no trace. But the men who leave legacies, they document what they learn. They teach others. They build systems that outlast them. And you don't need to be a philosopher or an inventor to do this. You just need to start passing on what you know. Teach your children the lessons school won't. Show younger men what you wish someone had told you. Write, record, speak. Build something that will exist after you're gone. Because wisdom that isn't shared is wasted. Knowledge is the only thing that compounds across generations. The skills you develop, the strategies you refine, the insights you gain, if you keep them to yourself, They end with you. But if you pass them down, they continue to grow long after you're gone. And this isn't just about family, it's about impact. When you walk into a room, do you make others sharper? Do you challenge their thinking? Do you inspire them to be better? Or are you just another man, consuming, existing, passing time? The men who leave legacies give more than they take. They don't just work for themselves, they work for something bigger. They understand that every lesson learned is an opportunity to teach, that every struggle they overcome is a roadmap for someone else, that every failure they push through is wisdom that can help another man rise faster. This is what separates those who build something timeless from those who are forgotten. And the best part? You don't have to wait to start. Right now, you have knowledge that can help someone. Right now, you have experiences that could save another man years of struggle. Right now, you have the ability to document, to teach, to create something that will last beyond your lifetime. The only question is, will you use it? Or will you take everything you've learned and let it die with you? Because in the end, you will be remembered for what you gave. Not what you consumed, not what you earned, not what you kept to yourself. Your legacy is built on knowledge, so the real question is, what will you leave behind? At the end of the day, life rewards those who take action. The men who refuse to stagnate, the ones who choose to grow, to learn, to evolve, every single day. Because knowledge is not just power, it is freedom. It is the key to staying ahead, to controlling your future, to never being at the mercy of anyone else's decisions. But knowing this is not enough. You have to use it. Every book you read, every lesson you absorb, every challenge you face, these are opportunities to sharpen yourself, to become stronger, smarter, and more valuable. The world doesn't wait, and it doesn't care about potential that is never realized. You must outwork, outlearn, and outlast, not just for yourself, but for the legacy you leave behind. So now the question is simple. What will you do with what you've learned today? Will you put it into action? Will you make the commitment to grow every single day? Or will you let it fade like so many before you? Your future is in your hands. The choice is yours. And before you go, share your story in the comments. What's the most powerful lesson you've ever learned? Let's build something greater together.